Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they getting?
Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Wednesday night, April 13th, 2022. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined on my screen by a familiar face and a somewhat familiar face. You know, Beach Batman joins the show, but also joining us is Cole Jackson, everyone's favorite Canadian. How's it going, pal?
I'm doing good. Hi, Zach's mom. Nice to meet you. I'm Cole.
Shout out my mom.
One of the newest writers of the site here. And, before we got going here, not to put you on blast here, I guess Cole already did it, but a potentially direct quote. I don't know if I got this exactly right, but let me know when we're starting this thing. My mom wants to watch. So.
Yep, that's direct quote. I'm really hoping she's hearing this. If not, she can listen to it on the podcast. If Mrs.
Batman is watching, then we're live now, I guess. How's it going, bud?
Dude, I just finished a plate of tacos. I'm ready to crush this. Let's go.
Plate of tacos on a microphone. In front of
I let y'all enjoy that with me. So.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's and we were talking here. We're varying in ages. I'm 26, Cole's 29, you're 22. So that's a big 22-year-old guy move.
Young 22 eating tacos at 10 o'clock at night.
Stop at the taco truck on a Wednesday night and just fill up. That will be heartburn city for me, but it is what it is. I respect the move. Fellas, so we full disclosure here, pull back the curtain. We just recorded for an hour on the Beatdown big board, doing an episode on cornerbacks, which is Zach's favorite position. He had a lot to say on a lot of those guys, so we wanted him to hop on and talk that through with us. Cole and I provided some of our analysis as well, and we voted on some of our favorite prospects that are going to get seeded into the bracket just before the draft. So stay tuned for that on Friday. But now we're just doing another hour, hopefully less for my sleep sake, for, getting up for work tomorrow. Just, chopping it up with the boys. Wanted to do a little discussion pod. And we have some mailbag questions to solicit. So we got some people hopping in here in the chat right now. We've got some Twitter mailbag questions going on as well. And it's just an interesting time in the part of the year for the NFL, I think. Like it feels probably a little bit more, I don't know what the adjective would be for describing the time of the year where you're in a little bit of a lull. It feels like we're in a little bit more of a lull.
I mean, let's call it, but I'm bored. Like, I'm done. I wish the draft was this week.
It feels like there's so much. Like
I'm watching fifth round special teamers and just not having fun. So
you've been expounding on this a lot lately. You're just very bored. You're just very despondent and desultory, and it's just like you're in a tough spot right now. You care to expand?
Using all this time to attack 105.7 right now.
Yeah, I'm in a glass case of emotion. And just for the record, don't come at my boy Vass, because I will come for you. I just it's at that point where everyone's, and I hear Spencer say it all the time, and I think Spencer nails it. You can only watch so much, and you kind of now I'm at the point where I'm going back and rewatching guys, and now I'm second guessing myself, and this is when you get into overthinking season, and as well as like with National Fast Army. What up, Tony? This is just kind of one of those things where I just find like you run out of content. So you see the national media folks will like switch up mock drafts and like kind of throw out random things, and they're just trying to generate interest to get us through these next 2 weeks. So all that to say, I'm ready to go. I'm just ready for the draft to finally be here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it has gotten quiet, and I think it's been it's been an interesting offseason for Ravens fans. It felt like it got off to such a just a completely glorious start, and then things started to, maybe for results that are both good and bad in the long term, things started to go sideways a little bit, and it just feels like a little bit of a negative taste got left in people's mouth after the Zadarius Smith bag fumbling, after some of these other things that we saw go down. It just feels like we're in a little bit of an interesting spot, and now we're in the position again where fans are like, gotta nail this draft after everything that just happened. You gotta nail it. Most important draft of all time. And it's like, it feels like we probably have that conversation every year. But yeah, I mean, that's where we're at. Zach, what's been your read on this offseason thus far?
I don't disagree with this being a really important draft, like standing out above others, especially after a couple, wouldn't say misses, but a couple of rough drafts. Haven't found a ton of starting contributors from every year. I mean, you've got some top guys from each draft, like Queen's been good. Marquise has been good. There's been a couple other guys, but a lot of guys have ridden the bench or been cut already or already been traded. So they do need to pick up a couple guys here in this draft that are going to be impact players for them and fill some reps.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, it is important, and I think when you are, as Eric DaCosta says, an organization that makes the draft your lifeblood, yeah, you kind of do have to nail it every single time, and it's been some mixed results in the last couple of years. I think people conflate process with results a little bit, and say that, for example, 2020 was this really bad draft. I don't necessarily see it that way. When you have J.K. Dobbins miss a year, he probably was going to break out this past year. And Queen has come into his own a little bit. Malik Harrison's had some development issues, but there's been guys that I'm excited to see hopefully get a chance to break out this year in conjunction with what is hopefully going to be a very good draft. But Ravens' needs have changed a little bit in the time since you and I last talked, guys, or Spenny and I last talked, with Calais Campbell returning to the Ravens on a 2-year deal. The big man is back in town after some interesting comments to open the offseason where he was kind of like, yeah, you know what, I loved it there, but we'll see what happens, and maybe I'll test the waters a little bit. And maybe he did test the waters a little bit, but he's been kind of seemingly just on vacation with his family and doing this, that, and the other. And then all of a sudden just kind of drops over this past weekend that he was going to be signing back with the Ravens. Cole, what was your first reaction to see Calais Campbell signing back in Baltimore?
Yeah, I think I was always kind of higher on him, and a lot of that came from it was kind of like, do they go for a vet edge? Do they go for see there, I'm on the screen and in the chat. I'm everywhere, baby.
Shout out the mamas out there.
Interior defensive line is just a little bit more shallow in this draft. I think if you don't get one, let's say in the first 2 rounds, I think you're not really going to find the type of impact player that they're going to want to find. And so in that context, and also considering that, I think they could double dip with edge defenders in the first or second and third or fourth rounds, and you're going to feel really good about that haul that you get. So in that context, why not bring back kind of that guy that can come in and just be your linchpin? Calais Campbell's been so consistent here. He hasn't really been the pass rush upside that I think we all expected. He had that season with Jacksonville where he had like 70, 80 pressures. I think that's what the Ravens were hoping for when they traded for him. They haven't gotten that type of production, but the big thing is he draws so much attention. He has one of the highest double team rates in the NFL. That's not just for fun. He gets the attention of the offense for a reason, and he's still a very effective player. He's a very good run defender, and he's able to get a little bit of juice. So the hope is you get him in more of let's call it a rotational role this year if they can build a little bit of depth, play him less snaps, and maybe he has more of an impact on a high leverage situation. So overall, I love the pickup. They were obviously angling to go a different direction. Zadarius Smith was the plan. It didn't work out, unfortunately. It really would have been a perfect fit. Then they kind of moved on to Bobby W. That didn't work out, so they went back to Calais Campbell. You can kind of see the succession. I'm not sure 2 of those 3 moves happen at the same time. Maybe they do. I'm not 100% sure about that. So overall, good move. Would have brought, between him and like a Jerry Hughes, a Justin Houston, that type of move, I preferred to go with Calais Campbell.
Yeah, Zeej, what did you think about Calais Campbell coming back on a 2-year deal?
Perfect signing. That's exactly what they needed. I think Cole nailed it. In a draft with such a weak interior defensive line class, depth wise at least, you don't want to pigeon yourself in on having to get a guy on day one, early round 2, in order to feel like you've truly filled the holes there. So getting a guy that can come in, still as a top run defender in the NFL, still maybe can show up with some pass rush juice if they maybe limit his saps. We'll see what McDonald can do with him coming in with a new scheme maybe. I think it's a perfect fit. I don't see why they wouldn't have gone with that. I think even if they brought in a Zadarius Smith or a Bobby Wagner, especially if they brought in Bobby Wagner, I think they probably still would have looked at bringing Campbell back. Big, good locker room guy. Just he's a Raven.
Yeah, it's like who is the face of this defense when he's not there? Is it Marlon Humphrey with his wacky ass food takes and I'm ratioing him with the Donald Draper gif? Is it like Marcus Peters? Yeah, maybe, but he's coming off the Achilles, and what's going on there? And Marcus Williams is coming in, but he's a new kind of fresh-faced young guy coming into that locker room who's going to be there for a long time, hopefully, but he's not quite the outspoken leader quite yet. And I still think back to this image that's burned in my brain of the Ravens are entering this wild card playoff game on a Saturday afternoon, and it feels way bigger than it should, but people are clamoring about them winning a playoff game and Lamar Jackson choking and this, that, and the other, and they don't have leaders on either side of the ball, and our identity is to get to the postseason and choke. Shout out to Marlon again for just a lovely quote that nobody took out of context, and it didn't stick with them for months on end. And then they get into that game, and right before the game, who is on the sideline getting in everyone's ass and firing people up? I mean, it's Calais Campbell. You got to give the guy all the credit in the world, helping them get over that hump. He was a big part of that, not only in that respect where he's firing guys up, but in that game, he was an absolute beast. Him and Wolf shutting down Derrick Henry. And, even since then, to your guys' point, for all the reasons that you mentioned, he's been a solid player and he deserves to stick around. And it's kind of just like, why not? Like, do you really want to move to another city and like start over again for, whatever it's going to be, another year or two, when you got a young kid whose life that you want to be in and you want to just be in a more stable situation? Just makes sense for all parties, I think. Right, Cole?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it really did make sense. And I think, there are some very legitimate concerns about the leadership in the defensive room. And I think you can look no further than the missed tackle issues. Like, these guys are NFL players. They know how to tackle. It's not a bunch of soft guys, in my opinion. But there is a very big sense of accountability that leads to missed tackles when it's kind of widespread across the team. So it kind of led you to kind of wonder what the hell's going on. And, there's no, and I don't want to turn this into drag Marlon, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But there was a game last year where Patrick Queen missed a tackle and Marlon Humphrey got in his face and kind of like, you could tell he was grilling him about missing the tackle. 2 plays later, Marlon Humphrey himself missed a tackle. And I was like, it's just like you didn't see this when you had the Hall of Famers around, right? Like it wasn't the way it went, because that accountability, that lead by example. Again, this isn't, Marlon Humphrey's not a good leader. That's not what I'm trying to get at, but I just think there's a very big aspect of leadership that has that intangible feeling. While people don't always love to talk about the intangibles, it's something that Calais Campbell brings. Like you said, he was out there, wore paint, ready to eat Roger Saffold's face off of him in that pre-Tennessee game. So I think that kind of stuff, even at the smallest measure, it all makes a difference, and it's important to have that type of continuity in the room.
Yeah, and Marlon Humphrey, I just looked it up. He's 25 years old right now. Like, that's hard to believe. He's younger than me. Like, he'll be 26.
He's probably eating a taco out of a
he's
a tinfoil wrap.
No, he's probably out on his
from the food truck.
Out on one of the houses that he bought with fucking Bitcoin, like, smoking it. Well, he probably doesn't.
His
smoke
NFTs.
Yeah, but he's just, he's like, eating some like food truck taco, talking about ranting and raving about coffee or whatever it is that he does. And he's just, he's still kind of a kid in many respects. And he, to our point, he acts like it sometimes on social media. So, yeah, I mean, like, if he's like the best player on your defense, that's fine, but you probably want a more calming veteran presence. And Calais fits that to a T. As far as like other news, I mean, there's the typical kind of rumblings about Lamar's contract that are still going on. Still plenty of aftershocks of the owners' meetings about the Ravens talking about pretty much confirming the fact that that's not going to be happening until Lamar is good and ready to talk about it, and he is not. Florio is on the case. So if you want plenty of content on that, get over to profootballtalk.com. And
I can only ratio Florio so many times. I'll keep doing it. Don't get me wrong. It's easy.
Not even worth it. He's just like, the guy is a true pro's pro. He knows what he's doing. He is getting his clicks out of that thing every single day. And there's a reason that one of the most successful satirists of our era is named after a person or a type of person that would reside in the comments sections of pft.com. So it's just one of those things where Florio is just being Florio, but it's kind of blood from a stone at this point. We don't really have to talk about that too much. And yeah, it's outside of that, pretty uneventful on Twitter. Cole is feuding with a local radio station that he doesn't have much affiliation with, which it just it tells you we're in the dead zone right now. That Calais Campbell, we can talk about all that kind of stuff, but yeah.
April 2022 or April of the month is when you end radio personalities' careers. That's just what you do in the spare time.
Okay, interesting. Well, Zeke, any other news stories or anything you want to touch on before we get into some questions?
I just want to shout out my guy Deshaun Elliott for getting a contract with Detroit. I think that's a really good spot for him. I love that fit for him. Him and Dan Campbell are going to be biting some ankles over there. Biting a kneecap.
I could see Deshaun Elliott biting an ankle. That makes sense.
He took both of Derrick Henry's ankles many times. So
yeah, I mean that came through pretty much right before we started going here. He winds up in Detroit for I think a 1 year, $3+ million deal.
3.4.
Is that comp eligible?
I don't think so.
It will be, but I don't even think it's going to matter.
He didn't make that much.
Moses and Williams makes it'll be irrelevant. Yeah,
so yeah, he winds up over there. Good for him. It just kind of felt like it wasn't going to happen. And then shout out to friend of the show, Ramey, who got curved pretty hard. he's having a tough offseason as far as recruiting guys. And he tries to get him to come back here. He's like something to the effect of, "Nah, bro, that shit's dead." So that's not happening. Ravens do not play the Lions for another 4 years, though, so they're not going to see him as long as he's with them.
Yeah, we're all worried about the Deshaun Elliott revenge game.
Listen, the guy, say what you will about him as a player, the guy holds grudges, and I think
that is true.
He's a menace.
Man, so I went back and looked. This is a funny story. So I tweeted 2019. And this was a very real thing. So people were talking about him being a cut candidate after his rookie year because he was, I think, a sixth round pick, and he was hurt his rookie year. So people were kind of like, screw this guy, get different safety, blah, blah, blah. And I tweeted, and I mean, I don't know if people just can't read their fucking tweets, but I tweeted, "I can't believe people are calling him a cut candidate." And he replied thinking I was calling him a cut candidate. And it's just one of those things where we're like, when a player replies you, you're instantly fucking dead. And so it just I got ratioed to oblivion. And I was just like, are you can you not read? I'm saying you should. Anyway, so that was my last interaction.
His reading comprehension. I hope he doesn't get a copy of this podcast sent to him.
Yeah. If you do, Deshaun, I love you.
I have a custom made Joker jersey. All right.
What I want to get you is in Joker makeup the next time you're on this podcast. You're a big Batman guy, so I feel
I'm wearing the new Batman hoodie. I just got my Batman art book. I'm living the Batman
22,
life.
It's insane.
Marlon Humphrey.
I don't know about you, but I'm feeling 22.
Marlon Humphrey, let me come on Guru Punch and defend the Batman.
When are they going to do that? By the way, you track his college football picks, right?
I did, yeah. That was my first Twitter thing was that I was tracking his college football picks.
How did those go?
He actually ended with I don't remember the exact number, but it was high 60s, low 70s, so not bad for just random betting.
Yeah, because he said Batman was bad. I'm confused.
He said he fell asleep with it. Said it was one of the worst superhero movies he watched of all time, and
which is the most predictable thing in the world, by the way.
Yeah, see, that's just stupid. He's Mike Florio. He's
I saw it, and then he went to go see it. I think the next day, and his sister tweeted something.
Jake called it.
Yeah, his sister tweeted something to the effect of Marlon is like, I wonder what he's gonna think of the new Batman. I was like, dude, he is gonna fucking hate it. And then I tweeted like a mock tweet of like what exactly he'd say about how I fell asleep halfway through like the movie or something like that. And then he literally, I don't know if he saw my tweet. He might have, because he tweeted something like almost identical to that. It was
he literally said I fell asleep halfway through.
Yeah. So
he drives me nuts. Like he can't be the face of Baltimore.
And then he went out and said that Morbius was one of the best superhero films of all time.
See, that's a lie. Yeah, so he's just doing it.
he's just doing it to piss us off.
I love the guy. He's a true sociopath and a performance artist, and
content king.
Yes, yeah. I'm a fan. So yeah, I mean, we got Deshaun Elliott to Detroit. Tavon Young wound up in Chicago. I don't think we covered that on here, but yeah, he's out of the picture. So that's two, good pieces in the secondary that played a role last season. I mean, Tavon Young makes a huge play against the Chiefs, and then he's, the first year and pretty much his entire career that he's healthy and playing solid for them. Yeah, and they release him and save a lot of money, which is great, but now you're down a slot corner, so that's a need. And then obviously it's safety with Deshaun Elliott gone. But yeah, I mean, nothing too earth-shattering really there to cover. So if you guys want to get into the mailbag, we can do that whenever you're ready.
Let's get it.
Born ready.
Were you? I feel like you were. I feel like you probably had to, hold yourself into
a very slow upbringing, probably.
Yeah, and then
Canadian background.
And that is me just filibustering until I pull up the thread here with all the questions in it. The first one, of course, coming from Jake Vogel, who says, if the Ravens can only get one Bulldog, parentheses Georgia, not named Trayvon Walker, who are you banging the table for? Davis, Wyatt, Dean, Pickens, Q Walker, Salyer, Seen, Cook, Z White, Tyndall, Camarda, Kendrick, Anderson. I don't know who half those guys are. Doubts he gets drafted off the field. We just had a long draft discussion, and there weren't really any notable Georgia corners that we talked about.
No, we hate their corner, Darren Kendrick.
I've talked with Jacob about his corner.
Okay, so it's not going to be him. So banging the table. I'm going to bang the table for George Pickens.
Oh, you stole mine.
Same area.
Yeah, nasty, sand in the pants, in the back, makes plays downfield. And
Spenny's not here, but if Spenny was here, he said it best. George Pickens is sick in the head. There's something that's not right there, and I love it. But he's just like, he kind of fits what they need in the whole. Do you take a wide receiver? Where do you take a wide receiver, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? For me, if they're going to draft a wide receiver, they need to do it early because I don't need another mid-round wide receiver, and B, it needs to be a skill set that kind of differs from Hollywood and from Bateman, and that's kind of, I can see Drake London fitting into that because he's a bigger body, the prototypical X, blah, blah, blah. But George Pickens just screams Raven to me. I think we said it on the corner episode. If they came away with their 14 and 45 picks with Andrew Booth at 14, and then they turn around and take George Pickens at 45, you're happy, and then they turn around and take Rasheed Walker at 76. You're building a very good draft out from that. So he's just the kind of guy that it makes perfect sense.
He kind of sounds to me like a Prohibition era like gangster. Yeah, George Pickens and the boys down at the brasserie. See,
the accent.
Yeah,
You know what? For the sake of being different, I'll go with Walker.
Okay, explain yourself.
Out of the Georgia linebackers, I think he's the best fit. He's the one that probably would most complement Queen the best, and you probably can get him at 45. Not sure about that though.
They take Quay. Are we talking Quay? Quay Walker?
Yeah, Quay.
Yeah.
He's starting to get the buzz. He's a big guy, athletic. We'll see.
Yeah.
We shall see. Neil West, are we getting a round table during the draft with the whole gang? Hashtag the beatbox. Hashtag Ravensflock. Answer's yes. Spencer and I, at the very least, are going to be streaming. I think we might have to hop on with the bigger SB Nation stream to break down the pick at 14 or wherever it is. So it might be divided into two, but yes, we will be live streaming and drinking a lot. God save me. And Cole will probably make an appearance. Zeeg, if you're not busy, you're more than welcome to hop on there too.
Down to clown.
Yeah.
Zach, your mom's watching.
Dan Abe's house. As far as the first two picks, can you think of a better combo than Stingley, Ojabo? Elite talents at positions of need. I think they'll bring in a veteran edge or two anyway, even if they address the position in round one. So I guess for the purposes of the question, like, yeah, I do like that combo. What's a better combo for you guys round one and round two?
Jermaine Johnson, Kyrie Elam. Zero hesitation.
I'm gonna actually stick with what I just said, and that's Andrew Booth, George Pickens. I think it's not. It doesn't really. Are they gonna draft a receiver? Are they not? I just want, and yeah, I see Tony in the chat. Like, there's no edge there, and that's gotta bug you. But I really think they could double dip in round 3, round 4, and come away with two guys that you feel really good about how they're going to fit in your defensive scheme. So I think getting kind of that top corner that's going to kind of fit in there, Booth, Peters, Humphrey, you're feeling really good about that. Pickens comes in and starts bullying, Pittsburgh Steelers corners, so you feel great about that. So I think that's my ideal 1-2 punch.
Interesting. I'm trying to think of what offensive lineman I would throw in the mix there. Because, feels like we're going to need to see them address that at some point anyway. So, round 1 or round 2, maybe you get a Kenyon Green in the mix there at some point with one of the guys.
I love Kenyon Green.
Yeah, me too. My guy. Okay. Stuart Shock. When you guys are doing your film study, how much do you allow yourself to fall in love with prospects? Do you ever feel like it just makes you disappointed when they're likely picked up by another team? I fell into Katy Perry there. What do you ever feel? Like a plastic bag drifting through the wind, waiting to start again.
I will feel like a plastic bag when Andrew Booth doesn't end up a Raven, but
so how much do you allow yourself to fall in love with prospects? Do you ever feel like it just makes you disappointed when they're likely picked up by another team? So when Andy Booth Jr., as we've dubbed him, winds up, wherever he's going to wind up, Pittsburgh, wherever it is, does that
do that to me? No, I've people that follow my Twitter know how much of a man crush I have on good old Andy Booth.
Who delivers tapers to the Jensens down the street.
Yeah.
Old Andy Dufresne.
Oh, I wish I could tell you that the Monopoly guy fought the good fight and the I wish I could tell you. But prison is no fairy tale. It's my Morgan Freeman.
Morgan Freeman.
Cole, do you?
No, I fall in love with guys.
I definitely do. It doesn't disappoint me. I get what you mean, though. Like, there are some. I mean, there's definitely some guys. Like, I think what bugs me is when they go to rivals. There was. I'm trying to remember who it was. I think it was Dante Smith last year. It was a tackle I really wanted the Ravens to take as a developmental guy, and he went to the Bengals, I think. And I just remember being pissed off because you don't want to see players that you think are good end up on your rivals' teams. So that is obviously super important. But I definitely fall in love with guys. I mean, there's just guys where it's just hard to explain, and I use the terminology, he's just a football player. And I know that sounds stupid and like you don't really have anything more concrete to say, but I don't know how to explain it. Like, when Hunter Renfrow was coming out of Clemson, I was like, I don't know. This kid's just going to be good. He's just a football player. I don't know what to tell you. Brandon Stevens, when I was watching him last year, I was like, he's going to find a path to success because he's just a football player. And then sure enough, he's one of the more promising rookies on the team last year. There's just some of those guys that just, like, this year for me, one of those guys is Leo Chanel. I don't know how he's going to do it. He's just a football player. He's going to figure it out. He's going to be a starter somewhere in the league. So there's some guys like that where I just kind of put my personal, I don't have anything intelligent to say, but I'm really high on this guy's stamp of approval from up here in the Great White North. So that's kind of how I look at some of that. I'll be pissed if Chanel goes in the AFC North.
Yeah, it's a shame that, he got canceled for a litany of reasons, but one of the great Grudenisms was, he's a football player, man. I'll figure it out. So
Yeah, it's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. He got that dog in him, phrase that I like to use, and yeah, it's like I do fall for guys, I guess. I fell for Rashad Bateman, and like we saw how that worked out. So maybe
Jamari Salyer gonna find his way onto a starting offensive line. He's just a football player. That's all I got.
Forsythe, he's just a football player.
Just a football player. Oh, fuck, man.
The Stone Forsythe from last year.
But he could be here developing right now, and he's not.
He's not.
Instead, we have Ben Mason developing.
Yeah, so yeah, Rashad Bateman is one that I did. I mean, but like the first draft that I really like dug into and where I was like getting deep into like more rounds than like the first and early second was I want to say 2014, the Mike Evans year, and I fell hard for Mike Evans. I was like, this dude has to fall, and like if he falls like out of the top 10, you got to trade up. He goes 7 to Tampa Bay, and he's like probably one of the best players in that class outside of like Aaron Donald. And Ravens got CJ Mosley. That was, a good pick at the time. It didn't really work out long term, but that was one. I think that was a learning moment where I'm like, all right, dude, like you got to really pick your battles and like pick value for guys that you're going to fall in love with. Don't fall for like Kyle Hamilton this year.
That's too late.
He's going to go, like don't subject yourself to that.
No, he had a slow 40, not a top 13 pick.
He's just a football player.
He'll figure it out somehow.
Yeah. Go Sports. Most likely trade up/downs. Obviously a complete shot in the dark, but where do we see the Ravens most likely to move into or out of? I got to think some of those fourth rounders get swapped. I'm starting to feel a little more team trade up than trade down. And it's for me, like, of course they always trade down, but like, how many freaking mid-round picks are you going to have? And like, it feels like this year specifically, it's been like, oh yeah, we're just, we just want to be a little conservative and use all our picks that we have. And we just want to, we want to trade back a little bit. It feels like our boy EDC, he might be playing a little poker on me. He can't get this one past me. I think he's, maybe planning a big move. They had a big move in the cards until Zadarius Smith spurned them. They had another one in the cards. Bob Wagner walked out on them. I think they want to make a big move, and I think it's going to happen on draft night.
I think you're right. And I think, no one saw Marcus Williams coming. That was shocking just to see the aggressiveness and the aggressive cap construction. And then when the Zadarius Smith news hit, it was like, holy shit, like, what is he doing? And then, so I think you're right. And so, who's a realistic trade option? I think a very realistic trade up option, because I don't think it seems to be in the price they'd pay. It seems to be they could grab one of those top 11 guys is the Washington Commanders. They just gave up a bunch of mid-round picks to get Carson Wentz. They could be looking to recruit a couple of mid-round picks. So, maybe you get away with, throwing 110 and 118 or whatever the hell it is, and you jump up 3 spots. And, it's only 3 spots, but that gets you in territory to, go after a Stingley, Jermaine Johnson. Like, what? It's just basic math. Like, someone has to fall, right? So I think that could be a very realistic trade up option. When we start talking about getting up to 10 to 9 to 8, it starts to become, we're giving away 76 and 100, and how many picks are they going to give away? It's not that I'm necessarily.
Let me give you a proposal here. Actually, it ties in with the last question we got from Dante Bird, which was, would you make this trade? And he posits Ravens get 10th overall pick from New York and a 5th rounder from them. And the Jets get the 14th overall pick, the 100th overall pick, the 119th, the 128th, and the 141st.
It's probably too many picks going out from us.
Yeah.
But if we can get up to 10 without giving up 76 or 45, yes, basically.
Yeah, easily.
That's not an issue for me. I don't mind throwing some of those 4th rounders in there. So yeah, generally, framework speaking, and you can use the JJ chart to kind of screw around with some realistic options. It's really when you get up to, I think 6 would cost you 14, 45, and 76. Like that's the JJ chart comparison. So that's not happening. It shouldn't happen. It wouldn't be a smart move. But 8 is probably the highest they could get. That seems to be within the realm of possibility. And I think to do that, you have to give up 76 and 100. So you would keep 45, but you're jumping all the way up to 8, and you're in play for a big fish there, and you still keep 45. So that you're getting top 8 player and then a top 45 player.
Absolutely. Tucker. Need a Ben Cleveland conversation. Would love to hear something about him / what his role could be this season and beyond. Thanks, fellas. Cole, we'll get to you on this because you're the O-line guy. But Zeech, what are your thoughts on Ben Cleveland right now?
I think he should be right now at a Pilates class right this instant, stretching out a little bit, doing some yoga, and working on. There you go, Cole. Give an example.
It's going to be a GIF in less than an hour.
I sure hope so. I will use it. I'm going to combine that with the ratio meme and reap the rewards. No, he should be doing some stretches, and he should be competing for that left guard spot with Phillips.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not much else to say at this point. Some rumblings about some coaches not being pleased with some of what they saw from him in his rookie year. So I mean, it just seems like it's all up to him. He's got the opportunity literally right in front of him. They didn't bring anybody in for the left guard spot, so it's down to him. It's down to Phillips, maybe Powers. Cole, what does the offensive line guru think of Mr. Cleveland?
Yeah, Cleveland pisses me off as a player because if you're 6'5", 354, you shouldn't be soft, and I think he is soft. He's a finesse blocker, but he's built like a goddamn Mack truck. So he's frustrating to watch, and
So
I would imagine
Columbus at this point. He's not actually been Cleveland. He's been Columbus. He's been Cincinnati. You gotta toughen up a little bit.
He might be Ben Fargo, North Dakota. I don't know.
That's a very that's a hard place if you think about it. There's a lot of strange crimes that go.
Ben Bismarck. He's just like, so I think the comment about coaches being there's no doubt in my mind that coaches would be frustrated with him as a player. He doesn't have the mentality that you want to see. I think this has been talked about quite a bit. If you go back to Dane Brugler's draft guide on him last year, he kind of talked about it a little bit in the summary section. So this was well known. But what he does have going for him as a player is he's an excellent pass protector. And so that is really the upside there. And I think when you look at the offensive line as a whole, if Ronnie Stanley's back and it's Stanley, Cleveland, Makari, Zeitler, Moses as kind of a base without a rookie addition, there's no weak link in pass protection on that line. There's just not. And, people will point to Makari and talk about his snaps, but, obviously the snaps need to be fixed. Like that's kind of a prerequisite to being a starting center. But in terms of his actual pass protection production, just never been a liability anywhere on the line, despite what people may say or what you may think about, his arm length and all that bullshit. So he's one of those guys where he's going to get on an offensive line. He's going to battle. He's going to be a good pass protector. Cleveland's kind of similar. Not a good run blocker, which is shocking because he looks like he should be, eating, other worlds, but he just doesn't. He's not physical enough. He's not, he doesn't play with any sort of tenacity. You kind of see it at the end of blocks. He'll have good hand placement where he could just kind of put you in the dirt. He just kind of, lets you go. It reminds me of Mikey Blumberg from the TV show Recess. The big blonde hair dude. Don't tell me you don't know Recess. You know Recess?
Oh, I know it.
I remember Recess.
Google Mikey Blumberg. That is Ben Cleveland. So he just
what did Spencer compare what did Spencer compare Falele to? The baby Huey?
Yeah. And
scared me. I don't know what it was.
And it's just there's Mikey Blumberg on the screen. There's Ben Cleveland playing left guard. So I think that's I seriously, the comment coaches are annoyed. 100%. It's no coach likes that in a player. But in terms of performance, really good pass protector. If he's your starting left guard, again, if the priority is to protect Lamar Jackson, you could do a lot worse than Ben Cleveland. You could do Ben Powers, and he can't pass block worth shit. So there's that.
I'm calling for a moratorium on Ben's. If your name's Ben, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I
am embarrassed. Ben Bredesen was my third-ranked guard in that draft class.
Listen, did some things for New York this year.
Wasn't bad. We traded the wrong Ben. There was 3, and we traded the wrong one.
There's 4 of them, and they traded the wrong one.
Who's the 4th?
Mason.
Oh, I forgot he existed. I've just erased him from my brain.
He's back. Don't worry.
It's
He's
funny.
back. Can't
Tony
forget.
in the comments goes, Ben Mason is described as a football player, and he's so goddamn right that it drives me crazy.
Every
100%, everyone's just like, he is a football player, and it's like, God damn it, yes he is, but no, he isn't.
No, he's really not. Spencer was all over that, by the way. He said he was fake tough guy, didn't like him. But listen, we're gonna see what happens with him. He's back in the mix. Best friend.
I mean, he's relevant again. Like they brought back Pat Ricard, so like he's anyway.
Well, guess what? Maybe he's gonna be like Reek in Game of Thrones, and he's just gonna have to pay a penance for his betrayal to Harbaugh. So yeah, that's the Ben Cleveland conversation. Taylor Sink, what's the earliest you are comfortable with the Ravens drafting Ojabo? I would say trade up in round 2. I love Ojabo. He's one of my favorite prospects. He still is. And, feels like it could be a Tennessee Titans situation where you trade up and get a great football player, let him sit for half a year, and then he's wrecking things for you down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm a little bit lower on him than others, but in the second round for the type of upside he possesses, I think it makes sense. There were things in his tape that bugged me. But then he's such a tough one because you could see how he becomes an absolutely insane pass rusher because guys don't move like he does. He's just so raw. He has no pass rush plan. But that stuff like that's all going to come. But it's just where do you value him? Who are you willing to take? It's Ojabo and George Karlaftis are such a fun conversation because they couldn't be polar opposites of one another. In the sense that Ojabo is your typical speed rusher who may turn into the next bend and dip guy like Von Miller, or may turn into the next Tim Williams and can't do shit. And then George Karlaftis is your typical power rusher that may become the next Trey Hendrickson, or he's another Jalen Ferguson. And it's so fun to see how the power versus speed, prototypical guys can kind of vary against one another. So Ojabo is just tough. You really have to feel good about how he's going to put together that pass rush plan in your defense.
True, and I am not sure if we've lost Siege here or what's going on, but I guess we can continue the convo. Jimmy Howard, do you think Charles Cross is a good fit in the Ravens scheme? Do you think he can play guard his rookie year similar to J.O., or is he strictly a tackle? So he's a great football player. He's a great tackle, so I think he's a good fit in their scheme. But what do you make of the guard question?
No, he's a tackle. He doesn't have a lot of transferable skills that would lend itself to guard. Maybe if you were in a wide zone scheme where you're going to really get him out in space and get him moving, I could see that making some sense, but not in Baltimore. He's more of a pusher than a mauler. So again, it makes sense in a zone, kind of framework, but where he's going to be asked to kind of blow guys off the line, it would just it just wouldn't make sense to me. So I think if they bring Cross in, Jesus, Zach, please no more gang signs.
One piece.
Cross would make sense if they're just terrified of Ronnie Stanley. Cross is a weird one because it's like I think I like Morgan Moses, but if they draft Cross and Ronnie Stanley gets back, like Morgan Moses can sit on the bench. Like that's fine. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to like not draft Cross because you have Morgan Moses. He's going to kind of be your true depth guy. People will probably be upset that he's not starting, and I get it, but we talk all the time about left tackle being an issue and you need to reinforce it. Well, Charles Cross is one of probably the best natural pass protecting left tackles in this draft class. So in that context, it makes sense. I think he could do a little bit at right tackle. If Ronnie Stanley got back, he's not a guard though.
100%. Yeah. I think he could do it, to a certain point, but the question becomes, do you really want to have him spend his time doing that much? Because I do think he could be a premier tackle. I mean, I think he could be a good left tackle for a team. So you're ostensibly drafting him to be a right tackle at some point. You've already filled that position. To your point there, you kind of just got to roll with Ronnie Stanley. Like you kind of just have to do it and see what happens to the points you've been making.
Rasheed Walker, baby. Rasheed Walker at 76. That's the manifesto.
Trade for Stone Forsythe. But yeah.
What did I miss?
So we're discussing the question coming across the wire about Charles Cross and his ability to play guard as a rookie, potentially. Is that something that you might be interested in?
No. If you're going to draft him, play him at tackle, I'm with Cole. Just put Moses on the bench. Sorry.
Okay.
Seems kind of like a waste.
Mr. Yuri, who I don't know if you have been on Twitter, Cole, but he has already turned your stretching.
He got you.
He sniped you there, and you are officially a gift.
It's a fantastic one, might I add. It's got all of the flair.
It was well done.
Cole, you are an athlete.
He nailed it.
That is absolutely absurd. How do I save that?
He says, is it worth losing out on some, and he of the primo positions cabal says, is it worth losing out on some luxury picks? Example, third tight end, backup running back, potential double dip, not double bitch at edge cornerback to move up in the draft.
The double bitch is in this GIF, I think.
Now, so for me, what I like primo positions and primo position studs. So I would prefer they sit back, draft Jordan Davis, maybe grab a Jeremy Rucker in the second round, maybe get like a Kyron Williams running back at a Notre Dame. That's kind of my whole thing. Maybe get yourself a fullback, Matt Araiza, at some point late. I'm just all about those primo position studs. So those are the guys that I like. But
I will not tolerate any Matt Araiza slander. That is a weapon, and he should absolutely be the pick at 196.
Okay, there you go.
I'm not. That's not even a joke. I'm actually like in love with the idea of them picking up Matt Araiza.
If you love him, why don't you marry him?
You know what? I don't think he would go for me, but I just might try.
He's not into Italians.
He's not into Italians. I'm sorry.
You're bullish on some of these guys.
I
don't know. Like, yeah, we've talked about the trade up. I'm all for a trade up. That's basically what he's asking.
Yeah, I'm whether it's taking a third and a fourth and getting another guy in the second, or grabbing Thibbs, Johnson, Stigley in that first round. I'm all for it. I want it. Give me some juice.
100%.
Mark, you said to draft a kicker. The thing is, Araiza can kick. He can kick like 70-yard field goals in practice. So clearly, just Justin Tucker backup as well. So weapon.
Listen, I like it.
For what was his 40 time? It was like 4 or 5 something.
No, dude, nobody's breaking down punter 40 times. Like, you're too deep if you're doing that. I'm sorry, but nobody knows.
I'll find it.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. DJ and K Show, are you guys comfortable with the current O-line? Ronnie is back and not pick OL.
468.
Thank you. Are you guys comfortable with the current OL? Ronnie is back and not pick OL until much later in the draft. Cole, what's the earliest you want an offensive lineman taken? Maybe I'm asking the wrong person there, but
it depends. Like, it does feel like if they stick and pick at 14, there's probably not going to be a guy that you feel good about at 14 because it's probably Trevor Penning. You can get into the Zion Johnson and Kenyon Green situation, but you have to be really confident that if you're picking Zion Johnson, that he's going to be your center, in my opinion, because he kind of needs to start out the gate. And I think grabbing another guard when you kind of have two guys that I think will give you starting caliber play is a bit of a tough sell. Kenyon Green, similar situation. Like, I can see how he comes in and is your day one starting left guard, but do you want to draft that at 14? And if Ronnie Stanley can't get back, can Kenyon Green kick out and play left tackle? So they need to be able to have that kind of starting ability at center or left tackle, in my opinion. And I just don't know if Trevor Penning is going to be worth that at 14. But then, 45, there's a litany of guys. Like, I think Tyler Smith makes sense. He's kind of your poor man's Trevor Penning, your poor man's Ike Ekwonu. You're really poor man's Ike Ekwonu. Like, you were, that's a bad comparison. That's not fair because Ike Ekwonu is a stud. But what I mean in terms of the skill set, where he can come in and if Ronnie Stanley's right, he just plays left guard and you're good. you have that insurance because, like I said, if Ronnie Stanley goes down, you need a guy to move out to left tackle to be able to start there. So I think that makes sense. And there's a number of guys at 45. I think, like I said, Jamari Salyer, it's a football player. Just draft him, he'll figure it out. So, there's a few guys at 45, but the number one guy for me is Rasheed Walker at 76. I think it makes a ton of sense. He screams Raven to me. We all saw that clip where he ended up on top of a dude from Maryland, and he gave him the old 1-2 hump stump. It was absolutely absurd. I've never seen anything like it, but I loved every minute of it. Just here for that type of behavior on the football field. But he does scream Raven. He can play left tackle. I think he can be a good swing tackle. You're taking him relatively high. You're getting a 3-year starter out of P5 school. He has a ton of experience, played good pass rushers. He needs to do some work, but he's got size, strength, length, everything you'd want in a starting tackle. So he comes in and he's your swing tackle, and you're just humming along.
Very nice. Ravens burner. Over under 3.5 quarterbacks and wide receivers taken before pick 14. Zeesh, what are you feeling on QBs and wide receivers?
3.5. I personally, from a Lions standpoint, I want them to take Malik Willis at 2. I think it makes, well, probably not a lot of sense for them, but I want it because it means Thibs drops a little bit more. But I do like Malik Willis to the Lions. I think they're organization that could take the time to develop him, and you've got a guy like Jared Goff in front of him, so you don't have to rush him out there right away. I don't know. I could see anywhere from 0 quarterbacks being taken to having an insane run on, let's say Willis and Pickett go, and then you've also got like Olave, Wilson, and maybe somebody sneaks up and grabs Burks. I'm going to take the under, but I could very well see the over happening.
What do you think, Cole?
What was the question?
So over under QBs and wide receivers taken before 14, 3.5 is the number that he supplied for us.
I'm going 3.
Interesting.
So under. Sorry, that was a dumbass question to an over under. I'd say under 3. I think a QB and 2 wide receivers will go, and I think you'll see. Who do I want to plant my flag on? I'm gonna say Drake London's gonna go weirdly high. Just has that feel to it where he kind of has so many like.
I like London.
Yeah, I think he's gonna go like weirdly high though. Like, I'm trying to think of the right fit, but it's really I can see the Jets, the Falcons, those 2 for sure being in that market.
Yeah, and I think QBs, like, I think it could be Willis. I think Tiny Hands Kenny. I mean, he was meeting with the Panthers today. Spenny Pickett.
Was this for the top 13 or the top 10?
Top 14.
I could see maybe the Commanders take a big body like London.
Yeah. Especially if they, if this Terry buzz is kind of real. I could see that for sure. So yeah.
So he's got some landing options.
Abood, for our last question of the night. Who is the player you fear the Ravens might draft? And for me, and I actually love this player, it's Jordan Davis. I fear the Ravens will draft him, and then I'm just going to be the fucking Popeyes employee meme, just completely just hunched over in despair because I'm going to have to see Ravens Twitter just eating itself alive because the Ravens drafted a run-stuffing defensive tackle that's one-dimensional. I think he's more than that, but the discourse would absolutely kill me. It would wreck me if that were to happen, and it's probably going to happen. So
it's the most chalk Ravens pick.
Zeech, who do you fear they'll take?
Linderbaum would make me cry. Linderbaum would just absolutely devastate me.
I think, I just they won't take Linderbaum, so I'm not too worried about it. They just won't. So that's kind of off the table for me. But just picks that scare me. I feel like it's probably Trevor Penning because I've planted my flag higher on him than most, so I'm just gonna be terrified of the blowback if he doesn't pan out. But I think a guy that legitimately scares me is George Karlaftis because my concern with him is It's going to be tough to get him on the field early because he's not a good run defender. So that's kind of number one. And then you're kind of left with a situational pass rusher that's your, typical power rusher. And he did have good pass rush production while eating a ton of attention from the offense. Like I'm talking about chip doubled constantly. And he, consistent pass rush plan, really good hand usage, good leverage creation, good hand skill. So a lot of things you want to see. Yeah, I definitely don't see a short arm try hard with his pass. He is probably the most refined pass rush plan in this draft. It's just absurd the way he manipulates tackles. It's just when you can't bend and you're not, overly powerful, how is that going to match up at the next level? Are you going to be able to make that transition like Trey Hendrickson did? So he's going to scare me just because I think I have a little bit of a bias towards I prefer speed rushers because they're just so much harder to block. And I'm worried about, offensive tackles being able to consistently body those old school power rushers. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Very nice. So, gentlemen, that is all we have for questions. I guess I can start to get us out of here, but did you boys have fun tonight?
Always.
I've been recording since 7:45. I did Locked On, then I did 2 shows with you, and I'm brain dead to the point where there is a GIF circulating.
Oh, my services,
I am
property high demand. Oh, feel free.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just here to bring young man's energy.
Yeah, you brought a little bit of a different salve. Otherwise, it will be too, mid to late. For me, I'm in my early to mid 20s, obviously, but Cole late 20s. He's super old, so very, very.
I'm a dad, so I bring that dad energy.
Yeah, tough energy. I am nowhere near being a dad, so it's
eating tacos at 10 p.m. energy. So
a couple different levels of energy being brought, but I think it was great. It was a nice, meaty, thick recording that we got done here, and 2 great shows to show for it, one of which you will be seeing on Friday, the Beatdown Big Board cornerback episode, and of course what you just listened to, which if you liked, feel free to follow us on social media. You can follow the show at Podcast Beatdown. You can follow me at Jake Luke, that is LOUQUE. Cole, where can the listeners find you and your stuff?
At Cole Jackson FB on Twitter, and 2 guys watching football over on the YouTube.
Zeej, where can they find you?
At perp_black veins on Twitter.
Very nice. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Thank you, everyone, for submitting questions and hopping into the chat. It was a fun one, as always. And we will talk to you guys at the end of the week with the big board and then next week. So until next time, arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age?
What are they getting? Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that.